Hey, Larken Rose here. So on a routine basis, I still get people commenting, "You're for capitalism, which means you're for slavery and oppression and hoarding of resources." And there are several levels of intellectual dishonesty there, but I'm going to give the people who whine about capitalism a chance to actually explain themselves and clarify their position, which they absolutely won't, but I'm going to give them a chance to anyway. Now, it's one thing to argue about the semantics. Capitalism, if you look it up in the dictionary, literally means an economic system where means of production are privately owned, and basically it's trade without government and ownership without government. That's what it still means in the definition. Now, a lot of people describe what we have now as capitalism, which it absolutely is not, if that's what the word capitalism means, because right now you have government coercion interfering with all sorts of things. But I'm going to set aside the semantics thing, because the people who lean in the direction of commie aren't using the word to mean the same thing. The trouble is, if it was just a semantics thing that, well, you use it to mean that bad thing and I use it to mean this good thing, that would be fine, except they constantly do the straw man thing and tell me that I'm in favor of oppressive, even though it's really damn obvious from everything I've said for the last almost 30 years that I'm against government coercion at all. So them pretending I'm in favor of what we have right now is just ridiculous. But for those of you complaining about capitalism, well, the first thing I'd ask is maybe define the thing. Describe what you actually mean. Describe this evil thing called capitalism. And I have yet to see any left-leaning sort of commie-flavored whiner at capitalism describe what the hell it is. Actually define it. And you can't just say, what we have now. Okay, what do you think we have now? And a lot of people, well, capitalism means that, and they'll just make up random stuff that has nothing to do with the definition. So the first thing is maybe define your terms and say what you mean. But I'm going to make this even easier, because I'm going to skip the definition here. And I'm going to describe some scenarios. And if you're one of those people who complains about capitalism, let me know at what point you think it's immoral and horrible, what I'm about to describe. So, going to use the example of a bunch of people on an island. There's a bunch of people on an island. I've used this before. One person on that island spends a whole day finding like the right vines and the right bendy branch, and he makes a bow and arrow and some arrows. That was redundant. He makes a bow and some arrows. And so he can fish in the stream and get fish. Yes, you can bow hunt for fish. So now he has that thing. First of all, is he an evil oppressor for taking some resources that nobody had claimed and nobody was using and making something into a tool for himself? Is he evil? Is he an evil, oppressive, capitalist pig swine for making that? Yes or no? The next step is he catches some fish. And somebody else says, well, I want to catch some fish. Give me your bow. Does he have the right to decide who can use his bow? Or is he an evil, oppressive, capitalist pig swine if he says, well, I'm afraid you'll break it or lose it or something. It's mine. Is he an oppressor for making something and then not just randomly giving it or loaning it to other people because they want it? Does that make him an oppressor? Now, you may say, well, no, of course not. Trouble is, if you're a commie, you've already stepped into the trap. Because the bow is the means of production. The bow is a physical thing which is used to get fish or small game or whatever. It is the means of production. If you're going to be a consistent commie, you have to already say that anybody who needs a bow has the right to just steal the bow that guy made. But you don't want to admit that you're that animalistic and stupid and violent, do you? You like to speak in the big vague terms that Marxists always speak in, of like, well, if there's a factory and a blah, 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 then the workers should seize the means of... Yeah, you're still just stealing a bigger thing. So where's the principle? Is that guy an evil oppressor because he made a bow and didn't just give it to anybody who wanted it or anybody who declared he needed it? Okay, let's go one step further. Some other person who didn't make the bow says, oh, I want to catch some fish. Now, the guy who made the bow says, well, I'll make you a deal. It's my bow since I made it. I'll let you use it for the day, but whatever you catch, I get half of it. So if you catch 4 fish, I get 2 of them. Okay, you can use my bow, but then you got to bring my bow back and I get half of what you made. Is he an evil capitalist pig swine for offering that deal? If you say yes, you're a delusional idiot, because he has no obligation to let anybody use or borrow his bow at all. So all the offer was a chance for somebody else to use the bow under conditions, because he has no obligation to let him use it at all. So is that guy an evil pig swine oppressor, and the other person has the right to steal the bow because they need it and it's the means of production and the worker should seize the means of production? Is he a nasty capitalist pig swine exploiter if he says, well, I'm afraid you're going to break it or lose it or something, but you can borrow it if we split whatever you catch with it? Is that evil and immoral and he should be overthrown? Is that what you condemn? And if he makes a whole bunch of bows, are other people suddenly entitled to them? Well, now you have 2. You can't use 2 bows at the same time, so now one of them is mine because I need. Do other people have the right to just steal a bow that he made if they decide, well, you don't need that much? If you're a consistent commie, you have to say yes. Their need for it entitles them to the product of other people's labor and time and effort. Because to be a consistent commie, you have to advocate theft and be literally an enemy of freedom, because you're telling everybody else, hey, if you take time to produce something, doesn't mean it's yours. If I need it, I'm just going to steal it because my need entitles me to it. That's why I refer to communism as the philosophy of cockroaches and sewer rats, because that's exactly what it is. Oh, I want something, therefore I'm going to say I need it. Therefore, it doesn't matter who made it. Doesn't matter whose time and effort and blood and sweat went into building something. I'm entitled to it, to something I had nothing to do with producing, because I need it. That is literally how cockroaches and sewer rats function. Oh, there's something I want it, take it. That's communism in a nutshell. So if you're somebody who complains about capitalism, let me know at what point in what I just described the guy who made the bow is an evil oppressor for not giving it away for free, or for offering a deal that you might think isn't fair for some random reason. At what point is that guy obligated to make something and give it to somebody else for free just because he knows how? From each according to his ability. Well, if you have the ability to make bows, then you're obligated to. You owe it to the collective. And anybody who needs a bow, to each according to his need, is entitled to it. Which means anybody productive or useful at all instantly becomes the slave of the worthless people. Which is what always happens under communism. So let me know what part of that description of capitalism you think is horrible, and think I'm such an evil pro-slavery meanie for believing that the guy has the right to make a bow and use a bow. He has the right to not let other people use it. He has the right to let other people use it under certain conditions, like you can borrow it for the day if I get half of what you catch. He can make any deal he wants, and the other person gets to decide, well, I don't want that deal, or yeah, I'll do that deal. Either way, they're not being oppressed. He didn't take anything away from them. He added one more option. That is actual capitalism. And if it gets really complex, like he builds a big wood shop, like he makes a chair, and then he starts to make tools, and he like smelts some iron and stuff. Now he has a big wood shop. At what point do you think other people are suddenly magically entitled to steal his wood shop and kick him out of it because, well, now it's sort of like a factory, so now we're allowed to steal it because it's the means of the production and workers. It's just trying to rationalize theft. And if he has this big shop and build all this stuff and he tells somebody, hey, you know what, there's like, I could produce a lot more, but there's only so many hours in a day. If you want to come help me build tables and chairs and stuff, I will pay you this much. Is he oppressing somebody? Is he an evil, immoral, capitalist pig swine for offering somebody an option they didn't have before? He's not taking anything away. He's not forcing them to do anything. He's offering them, hey, if you come do this work for me, here's how much I'll pay you. And you're allowed to say no and be in the same situation you were before I gave the deal. Or you can say yes, and we trade at whatever. And you can say, I'm only going to do that if you pay me this much. And the person with the shop can decide yes or no. Same thing. Either side can say, no, I don't want that deal. Or, yeah, we can agree on that. Let's do that. Is he an evil exploiter, capitalist pig dog for offering to voluntarily trade with somebody? Because what I've just described is actual capitalism. And if you're against that, you're literally against morality and humanity and freedom and anything vaguely approaching a sane viewpoint. Because you literally, to be against capitalism, you have to think that somebody producing something and not just giving it away to any worthless bozo who claims to need it, that's somehow an act of evil oppression. To not be robbed makes you an oppressor. So, if you complain about capitalism, let me know where in the description I just gave you suddenly object to the situation and think that guy's evil and bad. Because if the answer is, well, nowhere in what you described, then stop whining about capitalism, because what I just described is capitalism, not the crony fascist bullshit we have now, which is nothing close to actual capitalism. What I just described is the foundation of the concept of capitalism. And finally, I'll say, stop lying about what people believe when they're in favor of actual capitalism. Because I see that constantly. Commies constantly pretend. They do it to me. They do it to a zillion other voluntarists and anarcho-capitalists, a term that I think is redundant. And they're constantly complaining, you just want big violence, hoarding all the resources and violently forcing. Are you that dumb that you actually think that? Or are you that dishonest that you're constantly going to straw man it and pretend that that's what they... Even if you think that's what the word capitalism means, you know that I don't advocate that. If you're paying any attention, you know that anarcho-capitalists don't advocate that. So maybe stop lying about what we believe and stop lying about what you believe and actually be clear and actually describe what part of what I just described do you view as oppressive and evil and deserving of other people violently stealing the guy's stuff who makes the bows or made a wood shop or whatever. Be specific, give your answer below. Stop using your euphemistic, whiny, intellectually dishonest bullshit to advocate what is a profoundly stupid and evil philosophy, namely communism.